Welcome to Far East Wargaming. I'm Richard, and today we have with us Jeff. Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Rich. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, well, thanks for coming. And he's doing an army showcase of his amazing Salamanders army here.
Too kind. Thanks for having me.
No, honestly, thank you for coming. The Salamanders you brought with us today are some of the best Salamanders I've seen painted, and I've seen quite a few people try green in the past. Okay. And this here with the shading just looks absolutely fantastic.
Well, there's not that many Salamanders players, I think, unfortunately, because of the way the fluff is, but nevertheless, thank you very much for the compliment. Thank you very much.
Well, look, before we get into the army itself, let's talk a tiny bit about yourself. What got you into Warhammer and 30K?
Wow, I have to really take a trip down memory lane. Basically, I got into it way back. I think it must have been because you told me this question was going to be raised, so I had to really kind of look through some of the old things I have from my childhood. So, not mistaken, it's probably in the early 90s. Basically, I have family back in UK, so I took a trip, one of the only trips in my childhood back to UK. And as I was in Leeds, I just stumbled across a Warhammer shop, and I was thinking, what on earth is this? With all the cool miniatures on display, I got sucked in, and that was it. I was hooked. So I came back to Malaysia, and I think in those days, we didn't have the kind of community we have now, the thriving one we have in Malaysia, thankfully. But it was really hard to find any miniatures. But thankfully, my grandmother, bless her soul, she came back over to UK and she brought this big trove of miniatures. I had the old box set, the one that had the plastic miniatures with the cutout Dreadnought and the Gretchens and the Goths, those old ones.
So that was I can't even think about what edition that was, but it was long. So the 90s.
I was scratching my head,
the 90s. No.
So I had that. But the downside was I loved the miniatures, was sucked in, but when I was staying down in Johor, there was no one to really play with. So that's when I just became a hobbyist. And then after that, I took a long break because I just couldn't find anyone to play with. It was really hard to get the miniatures over Malaysia back in those days, unless I made a trip to KL, the one lonely game shop we had in those days. And then after that, basically, when I was in UK again, I stumbled across a random post online about Terminators and got sucked back into the hobby. And that's how I got into the hobbying a bit, and wow, this is the end result now. I've got into my Salamanders army in 30K.
Well, I'm glad you did, and I think your story, just in general, resonates with a lot of us. I know a lot of people who started when they were younger and then took a break for several years before honestly getting sucked back in.
That's how it is. Catch the bug again.
You do catch the bug, and that's kind of my story as well. I started when I was younger, and then I came back to KL, and I just walked past the Warhammer store we have here, and
it's a trap.
Yeah, it was a trap, and I was immediately sucked back into the sport and the hobby, and now here we are doing the Far East Wargaming. So it's really it's a passion, and you can see it come out in a lot of people, especially when they have some nostalgia from the youth. But I can understand what you're saying, especially for out here in Asia. We don't have many stores, or we didn't in the past have many stores for Games Workshop, or just miniature hobbying in general. So it was always hard if you were one of the few who were bitten by the bug overseas.
Yeah, you just don't want to address your.
Yes. So is 30K the only thing you're doing at the moment in the hobby?
Hobby-wise, actually, no. My first army I painted up properly was my Flesh Terrors. So I got that painted up, but again, I think I've told you as well, Rich. I've always been, up till recently, a hobbyist first and foremost, and pretty much just a hobbyist. So I never actually dabbled in the game. So I have my Flesh Terrors army all painted up and nice, sitting in a cabinet that's never seen the battlefield before. And then after that, my second project, which was the Salamanders army, I got into those. And finally, I've taken my first dab, I think last year, my first game. So I'm finally getting into the actual other aspect of the hobby, playing the game itself.
Well, it's great to have you here. You've done a battle report for us as well, so that'll be on the channel soon as well. Or if we're not already up by the time we've done this army showcase. But we're glad to be building the community out here because honestly it's a fun game. With the release of the latest edition, it's brought in an influx of players,
a lot of
which
refugees.
which we're happy for. It's ported over some of the malcontents from 40K into 30K. We're happy to have you here, things like this. But what you're saying, you're a hobbyist first as opposed to a gamer. It's honestly quite clear in the way you paint, in terms of the painting is your, what can I say, is it your passion?
Yeah, I definitely say painting is my passion. I mean, I could spend hours of the wee hours in the morning painting up a miniature and just go back into it again because I'm not satisfied. Yeah, it's a bit of passion and a curse at times as well, though. So yeah, I definitely say hobby is first. Never know, might change.
Well, we hope to get you in a few more games, and just in general. I think you're taking part in one of the tournaments we're having in the future.
Yeah, that's exciting actually. I mean, like it'll be a level up from the games I've played so far. So I really have to kind of like look at my list and try and like hopefully I'm prepared for the big tournament coming up.
Well, speaking of the list, what you have here, well, let's start with the entry-level question. Why did you choose the Salamanders? Of all the unwanted children in the Hersey,
that's the thing. Often, basically, someone's got to adopt them. I think it's because it was a bit of a turnaround or contrast to my Flash Terriers. Flash Terriers being, brutal, merciless, savage, and just a bit of a villain in some ways, as far as like 40k is concerned. But Salamanders being the opposite, they are one of the few legions that actually look after the little guy. They have like honor, duty, and they'll protect the local populace. So they're a bit of a contrast. And then the color scheme's nice. Yeah. And the iconography. I like the dragons and the fire and all that and the gold. So that drew me in as a hobbyist and a painter, I think. So yeah, I think that's the gist of it.
Yeah, so that's great. You're right in terms of, so a bit of the lore and a bit of the painting is what attracted you to these guys. And I can say the green you've done is honestly look fantastic, and I hope you guys can see justice for it in the photographs we're going to take for the army showcase here. But talk us through your army. What have you got here?
Okay, I guess I'll start off with the little guys first. So I've got like a 10-man tactical squad, basically Marines up front there. I've got, of course, the 2 supporting Demos Rhinos, which I kind of either use loadout for tacticals or my pyroclast, depending on the list I'm building. Then we have my heavy support squad. So they've got 8 las cannons. Don't hate me for that. But the intention is to have them magnetized. So that's why there's 8, so I can like switch around the loadouts.
That's a very cool idea, especially now with the plastic. Yes,
tedious, but I suppose better than buying and doing squads for each. A lot more painting for me, so no.
GW wants you that.
I know. I don't mind them. It's more the time sink and the money, because like I have to paint them properly for myself. So it's a lot of labor, basically. Aside from that, I've got like a 10-man assault squad. They're kind of more. This is when I was a hobbyist. So I modeled them more on a cool factor. So they've got like all kinds of random power weapons, not only fit for game, but I'm thinking more of a hobbyist kind of line. So.
Well, rule of cool. You made them look great, and you can adapt them.
A lot of proxying, have to be fair.
Yeah.
So, and then aside from that, I've got 10 pyroclasts. They're normally loaded up with apothecary. I'm aiming to paint one more to go with the other squad.
So, and another two sets of 10 here, right?
Yep, exactly. 2 sets of 10 squad pyroclasts. And then I've got my Terminators. So I've got 5 Indomitus Terminators. I've got 5 Catabractite Terminators with various kind of close combat weapons and shields. Then I've got my special characters. So I've got my Terminator Captain, Sergeant. So he'll be more or less either fitting out as a Praetor or Centurion, depending on the 2 Librarians. 1 chaplain and another Praetor as well. Basically.
Librarians are quite rare in 30k at this point in time. So it's good to see people have them and are using them in their lists.
The reason why I built it is because of the lore or the fluff that I took from one of the books, the omnibus. So there's like one character, Dakir, I can't remember, don't hate me if I get it wrong, but he's like a standout character in the story. So that was kind of like inspired by that character. That's why I did Librarians, but they're not that popular.
No, they're not.
And then after that, I've got my, I've got my Deredeo.
Yeah.
And then I have my Contemptor, my Javelin, then my Spartan. You have to have a Spartan, because in the Spartan, normally I always take my Trustworthy Fire Drakes.
Yes.
And of course, the Lord himself, the one that will not die, Primarch Vulcan. My centerpiece and my warlord of the army, basically.
Well, it's great to see a Primarch. to be honest. We've been talking about this on the channel. The Primarchs are something we don't have too much of out here in Asia, especially in KL community. Slowly but surely coming into people's armies as we get the size bigger, but our restriction, of course, is that you need larger size armies to be able to play Primarchs, or any Lord of War per se. And initially we were a smaller community, but now with the recent influx, especially the influx of plastic models, the plastic Spartan, the plastic Mark 6s and the new Terminators and such, it's easier to grow an army in size per se. But yes, I'm glad. Honestly, it's lovely to see a Primarch on the channel. Hopefully one day we'll see him in a game. I think out here we have gentlemen's agreements most of the time. If you're bringing a Primarch or any Lord of War, we notify the opponent to have something, because if it's very one-sided with just one Lord of War in an army. So Primarch versus Primarch battles are something we're looking forward to here in the channel. Well, look, before I delve into more of the specifics in terms of what was the inspiration behind the color scheme you're going? Because you've followed a very standard color scheme here of lava underneath and shades of green and black.
Yeah, well, I think the green and black is pretty standard. Maybe mine has a bit more black than normal, but I wanted the contrast and look a bit more darker because, like you said, I've got a lot of lava, I've got a lot of painted up fire and magma, so the black helps mute down the color scheme as well. And for the green, I kind of wanted more of a darker, more pastel-y green, rather than the 40k green. I find that a bit too vibrant for my personal taste anyway. So, but a lot of trial and error, but I kind of came to the scheme that kind of just felt a bit more right. But the downside is having a lot of lava bases just means a lot more work.
Yes, but it does really make the model pop on the especially on the tabletop. Just seeing them in general, that bright base versus the darker color scheme does make all of these models pop. So it's time well spent, I'll say.
Yeah, well, I suppose that was a desired effect, to kind of give it contrast. But again, I'm a glutton for punishment, so it has its downsides.
Fair enough. So, out of what you've got so far, what are your favorite units?
Oh, okay. My favorite unit is probably what everybody else hates playing against from the few games I have played. I think for gaming-wise, I think the Fire Drakes. Yeah. Fire Drakes is close second to the Pyroclasts. Fire Drakes just because they're really tough to kill with their 3 inbounds and the Thunder Hammers as well, so they deal out quite some punishment. But I suppose that the reputation kind of precedes them, because some of the games I've played before where people just don't even let them get into the fight. They just walk around them basically.
Well, that's one of the tactics for avoiding Death Stars is to never get in contact with a Death Star. So it takes them out of battle. But yes, playing those, they look great. Are they also one of the ones you enjoyed painting or assembling the most, or is there something else?
There's so much character in them. I mean, I love the models from Forge World. They're top notch. So yeah, I enjoyed painting the iconography. As you can see, there's a lot of flame kind of on the miniatures. So it might not be to everybody's liking, but I thought it distinguishes from the gold. We got a lot of gold trim as well. Yeah. And the shields and the mammo weapons as well. I mean, I tried to spend some time because they're standout characters, standout units. So yeah.
No, it's definitely. Thunderhammer, seeing it in that color scheme, the fire flames, is different from other legions who I think sometimes go more the electric blue, powered side of things. So it definitely catches the eye for a lot of these weapons. But again, very, very much Salamanders themed or Salamanders lore focused there. So it's great to see in terms of this. And then, well, talk us through your other special characters you've got here. Of course, you've got Vulcan, who speaks for himself.
Exactly.
Speaks for himself. But what else have you added here in terms of, you were talking about your Praetors and your Chaplains here?
Sure. So the main Praetor in the front left there, that's Vulcan Hesitan, I think, the 40k miniature. Yeah. I mean, I love the miniature, but I just despise the helm, so I had to switch out the helm. So he's basically supposed to be just like my kind of stand-in for Praetor or Centurion, basically, depending on the loadout I'm running with. Then next to him is the one that's in Terminator armor, so same thing, either Centurion or Praetor. Ideally, most games I run him as my Primaris Medicae, because that's quite good for Salamanders.
Yes.
But I'm thinking of building a proper Primus Medicae later on when I get the time.
Yeah, it's unfortunate there's no dedicated model for Primus Medicae in Terminator armor. You have to do some heavy conversions, but I've seen some great conversions out there, and we even in the community here we have some guys who've done some great conversions on Planet Medicaid. But yes,
that's one of the downsides about Salamanders. Actually, we don't really have any dedicated characters from Forge World. We're one of the neglected as always.
You are one of the neglected legions, and I'll say this. I think we brought this up in our weekly discussion.
People at Games Workshop listening.
Yes. Well, I think you don't actually have any in the book special characters other than Vulcan. Like,
exactly.
I think you have a few in the Legacies list, right?
Yes, but the reason why nobody remembers him is not worth remembering, to be honest.
It's true. There is some lack of oomph in some of the Legacies. It kind of is a double-sided coin. They're either not worth the points or they're actually quite overpowered. And you, unfortunately, for the Salamanders, fall into the lack of oomph.
Best of both, the best of both bad worlds, basically.
Oh yeah, well, overpriced and lack of oomph, maybe along those lines. So it would be great to see some love for the Salamanders. Please. Well, there's a lot of lore out there, special characters that could be adapted into the game system. We don't need any, we just need to see progression for the guys who really do want to paint it. And it
would be nice.
It's the miniature side of things. Regardless of the rules itself, having sculpts that are specifically for your legions or others that can be adaptable are great to see. So please, Forge World, if you are out there listening,
pay attention. Do us a favor.
Salamanders need some love.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Okay, and then, well, what's next for you in terms of your Salamanders army?
Well, it's a long list. Ever since I started playing the game rather than hobbying, obviously there's a lot of I suppose things I'm lacking in. So I think next one I'm probably painting up it might be my either special characters or the Herons. So Herons are the exemplary units, I think.
I think they were added in one of the FAQs or the downloads from Forge World.
I think you're right. So that rule-wise or I suppose point-wise, they're not anything to shout about. They get like 2 wounds. I think they get special rule called Guided by Prophecy.
Yeah, they get. I think there's a special rules for them, but they still stay with the base weapon skill and ballistic skill. I think so.
Yeah, unless you make that leadership roll.
Oh, that's the Guided by Prophecy rule.
Yeah,
so
you get weapons skill you get 5.
Yeah, you get an increased weapon skill, and I think
you get the feel no pain 6. Yeah, you're right. So, but again, I mean, like for the points you pay when you consider that, it's a bit. But
it's a toss-up.
Yeah, exactly. But because of fluff, and we don't really have that many special characters not going on again, or special units aside from 2 units. So I need something that adds a bit more, uniqueness to the army.
Yeah, well, there's not only the gaming side; it is the hobby side, and I think you've pointed out, hobbying is the main part. The gaming is secondary. So it's always nice to have every unit that you have available, especially when there's only so few.
Yeah, exactly. So that's that, and probably maybe a Leviathan.
A Leviathan, yes. A levy is always good.
And plus, with the Salamander special rule, it will not die. You know that, and where they're a lot more resilient, the melters, plasmas, and that. So that could come in handy.
It could. Leviathans feature on a lot of our gaming tables, and they're very hard to deal with.
I'm missing out.
Yeah. But then anything in the flyers, because you do have a great flyer here.
This is the thing. I mean,
the Fireraptor.
I love modeling it and painting it. Obviously, it's such a standout miniature. The flyers from Forge World are top notch, excellent. I mean, aside from the fact that they're a nightmare to assemble, that's a whole different story. Yeah. But unfortunately, when it comes to game wise, I think flyers we do have some risks attached to it with intercept rules. Yeah, with the Skyfire, we've made flyers a bit less viable. They're still very good if you play them correctly. I think you've played this a couple times with us here, just in a gaming perspective, and it's been hit or miss. But I think the flyers in general are kind of hit or miss. In that respect, but with Skyfire, with a heavy support squad having, when it misses, you can really go terribly wrong. Basically, like in the game that I had with you, where it came in, I didn't fire a shot and it was gone. So it can be. Gone. It does need. I think the flyers themselves need a bit of love in terms of they can't really do much against interceptor fire. Coming their way, they can't jink against it. Sorry, jink was the old rule. They can't shroud now against it coming in. So 10-man missile launcher squad flying at shooting at something like this. I was on the receiving end of that. It wasn't pretty. It's quite vulnerable. It's painful. But themselves, the models, I agree with you. The models are beautiful models. So this Fireraptor, the Xiphon, the Storm Eagle, they're
they're beautiful models to see, and they're just great to see on the board.
I know.
Yes, sometimes they're not on the board for long, but it's great to see them played, and I hope they do get some more love in the rules, and just to be able to see more of them out here. Forge World is relatively complicated for us to get out in Southeast Asia.
Tricky.
We do have now some easier ways of doing it with some of the releases, the newer releases from GW, but also Southeast Asia now, we have people like Tokyo. The Tokyo office has Forge World in stock for some of their things. We can get that a bit easier.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, we do. It's not impossible or as hard as it used to be, but it's still not facilitated per se in that respect. And then, well, apart from the Salamanders, are you looking at anything else in 30k, or is this going to be your main legion for a while?
Depends how much I want to punish myself with the painting. I've got a bit of a list to get through. But I do have an army in waiting in my cabinet, as everybody always has.
the cupboard of shame.
Yeah, exactly. So my next project, I think, will still be 30k. Most likely, it will be Sons of Horus.
Sons of Horus.
But I'm not too sure. I have to check the law wise, but it's something that makes sense. But I might do them in the Lunar World scheme.
Yeah, so the Loyalist scheme. I was going to say, but punishment for more green. But
no.
Go for the
white. White is even worse, isn't it? Basically,
it's the grey white there of the Lunar Wolves. So,
but I thought white might be a different color because I like the idea of weathering on white, because that really comes across with nice weathering. As you can see now with this army, I think contrary to most other 30k painters, it's a lot more clean, no weathering, not much grime. So the next kind of like thing I want to push myself with is the next army to try and really take up my game with weathering and streaking and all that.
You're right. Look, I think they're lovely, and some armies I think are better clean. I think the Salamanders, especially the way you painted them, stand out a lot more with edge highlighting and clean lines. You can do the grimdark version of it, like the more grungy version. I just think it lends to some legions more than others.
Yep, agree.
I believe, like for instance, Salamanders and Night Lords, cleaner lines look really nice on these kind of armies, and I do really want our showcase here to do justice to the painting you've done and see those clean lines and that shading, because you've done a great amount of gradient shading here. I think that's a credit to the painting style.
I try, but yeah, I think I agree with you. I think certain kind of color schemes didn't really kind of like complement weathering that much, and I think the reason why I went clean cut with this was because I already did the first batch clean cut. I didn't want to like make it twice the work by going back and doing the rest in weathering, changing the style, so I had to kind of stick it through. Plus, I think with the character of Salamander as well, being noble and somewhat like a bit more the good boys.
The good boys.
So I thought in theme with that, I wanted to make sure they were clean.
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, that's good to see.
My excuse anyway.
That's good to see. Well, look, thank you very much for being here with us on the Fireraptor Wargaming.
Thank you for having me.
And it was an honor to showcase this. And as you add more, I hope to have you back both in the gaming space and maybe a larger army showcase in the future when you've added the rest of your
check back with me in 2 years, maybe.
Well, we definitely will.
Okay.
But look, thank you very much for being here.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me, Rich.
And thanks everybody for tuning in. From Fireraptor Wargaming, this is our army showcase of Jeff's Salamanders. We look forward to having you like and subscribe. Please comment, give us some encouragement. We've got his details in the links, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, guys.